It seems fitting when you're between Father's Day and Mother's Day and Memorial Day, all these things that give us a little bit of emotion to our heart and to get us in a sense of feeling about life and love and family, maybe people lost that we miss dearly. I thought it was fitting to do a message simply on family ties, just family. Because family is not what God wanted it to be for all of us today, but it's what we have to make it in many cases be because of things that changed in our lives, decisions we didn't make maybe that we were caught in. And all kinds of things have happened in life. Family ties. A minister named Robert Orban once said to his congregation, and he was talking about his family, he said, "Who can ever forget Winston Churchill's immortal words from World War II? We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills." It sounds exactly like our family vacations, he said. You ever set out to have a family reunion or a vacation together as a family, and by golly, you're going to be blessed because we're together and like it and smile? Were you ever that kid who was told, smile and be happy? We're having a good time, aren't we? I know you said it. I know. But isn't it true? Sometimes it's like you just put yourself together to make a blessing come about for your family members, and somebody's already complaining. I can tell you when we went on vacation when I was playing baseball, I love baseball. I didn't want to go with my family on vacation one year. And my dad said, "You're going to go and you're going to like it." And I went, and it was an awesome vacation, but I pouted because my team was playing baseball in the tournament without me. And I was missing those games, missing the moment. I just knew that we were good enough, we were going to win the whole thing, and I wanted to be part of it. We'd go to Buffalo Bills Museum. We went to Little Bighorn Battlefield, to Old Faithful. Everywhere we went, I just tried to make it miserable for my dad because he made me go. Being a father and taking kids on vacation from time to time, I get it now. You put yourself into trying to put a blessing out there so that your family can enjoy something in life they couldn't do on their own. And you want them to like it, by golly. Family. Now I'm trying to think of Jesus and the Father above in heaven. Looking down upon us, he gave us Eden, paradise. He was ready to enjoy it with us, to bless us if we would just take the blessing and use it and be happy with him the way things were and be content with what he had to offer. But we couldn't. The world gave him trash and debris, war and violence, murder, adultery and fornication, and homosexuality, and thievery, stealing. Did it scare you I'd say some of those things in today's modern world? I got to say what's in here. And so many things that we could list. So many things we could list. That's what we gave back to show him how much we liked family. We decided to change the family and make it what suited us in so many places as people. We've seen how we've done. Well, let's start off today by talking about the family in this sense. In Genesis 18, we see a charge for the man of the house. A charge for the man of the house. And this isn't the only place, but it's one of the few I can use today. Genesis 18, 17 through 19 says this, talking about Abraham. Then the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him." Now understand something. The Lord could look ahead in his life and see where Abraham's head was, see what his direction would be, know where he was going. He knew him to be a man of faith and saw that he would continue to be, because God can know the future. For all of us, he can know what decisions we will make and where we'll be headed when we make them. Here is a man, Abraham, who was a good father. He was enjoyable. I looked up the word good, just the word good. I thought, well, what's that mean? Well, in the Webster's New World Dictionary, good is many things. It took a half a column of definition to describe good. And I couldn't write all of that down and tell you today, but I chose some of the words that were on the list, and here they are. Enjoyable, desirable, pleasant, honest, worthy, respectable, of moral fiber. These are just a few of the many things that describe somebody who's good. If you're good, you're all those things. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Two things you and I do. We use good too freely in this world for too many things. That's one of the things that we do. And as I'm thinking about it, it's true. We think this is good because this happened, or this event took place, or I'm good because I did this today. And we put conditions on how long good is, how much it lasts, how deep it goes. Then there's another word, love. I love apple pie, but I love you too. I love going for rides. Some people say, I love the smell of mowed grass. And they got through the 60s okay. That was over your head, wasn't it? Or you're thinking, what did he mean by that? We say love freely, just like we say good. Friends. How many of your kids say they got lots of friends? And this thing called Facebook, all your friends, somebody has 1 million friends or followers. Now they're changing the word to followers because you can't have that many friends because you can't invest that much time in that many people. I hear the grandchildren and people like that all around me saying, she's my friend, he's my friend. They'll introduce somebody to me I've never heard of or seen before and call them their friend. And I'll say, don't you think that's an acquaintance? Wouldn't a friend be somebody who invests in you, you invest in them, you spend quality time together, you really know each other? That's the one supposedly you have as best men and maids of honor in your weddings. The ones you call even after a few months have gone by to see how they're doing because you've heard something happen in their life. And they check up on you. And you aren't the one who's doing all the calling. They call you back sometimes. But we have called friendship what is really acquaintance. Our words don't really spell out family the way it ought to be, or anything, or any relationship. We go back here now to Abraham. It says he was a good father, and I told you some of the definitions of what good is. And now when I think about definitions, I need to take them more seriously. Words have meaning. Abraham was known by God as a man who raised his sons in the righteousness of the Lord. In verse 18, all nations on earth will be blessed through him. Think about that. He had to make decisions in life, early in life, that would affect his future. If his family was going to be the family it needed to be, and if he was going to bless the families of the world, because that's what God's saying about what the guy we call Father Abraham, if he was going to be that guy, he had to be good often. He had to be desirable to be around. He had to be somebody you wanted to emulate his actions. You wanted to fall in his shoes. His family had no problem with that because Abraham was the man God knew he was. He was that good person. And all nations, all of us, will be blessed through him. Verse 19 tells us he will direct his household to keep the ways of the Lord. That's ideal and supreme for the father of a household, for any person who leads any household, whoever that leader may be. Directing everybody who lives with you in your home to understand it's the Lord and it's his ways we follow. And you will be grieved at times because they won't follow the lead always well, especially as they get older and make their own choices and stumble in the dark themselves, as you might have at times. A charge for the man of the house, you've got to be that person no matter what everybody else does. They've got to be able to look at you and not say, wow, he wavered this season or that one. He gave in, shortcut the truth of God. And it's hard. It's not meant to be easy. That's part of the gift of fatherhood and leading a household that God gives you. He's entrusting you with those who live in your life, those who live in your home and you provide for. He's entrusting you to see that they're on the right path. And here's the problem in America. Too many of the men of the past have let the wives take care of everything. And guys, I'm not picking on you necessarily because I've seen that you have led your homes. but not always, not everywhere, and not every season, not all the time. Women will do what's necessary because their heart says provision has to be there. The children have to be cared for. Things have to be tended to. And here's what happens. If there is a void left by the man of the house, the wife picks up the void and does her responsibility as well. And when that happens, she gets tired, grumpy. You get to have another argument about whatever it was that was not necessary. She's resenting silently the fact that you won't lead. And men, it's important. I'm not waiting for Father's Day for this one. It's not fair to fathers not have something positive happen on Father's Day. But in the family ties, the man has to take his responsibility seriously. Otherwise, there'll be more homes where it didn't work out and mom takes over, or grandma and grandpa, if mom and dad can't handle it. If you look around America, there's a lot of this going on and a lot of government programs to try to facilitate help for people who are now raising their children because maybe mom and dad couldn't take the responsibility serious enough or they couldn't get their life together. I'm telling you, by God, that's not the way it's meant to be. That's not his way for the world, is it? So if you have a mom and dad who love you and they have rules, and of course I know there's not that many young people sitting here at this point, but if you had them, make sure you honor their memory and remember them and honor them. Appreciate what they've done and follow in the footsteps of someone who would lead their family to love God. Whatever else they do in this world, whatever else it may be, that's going to be number one, I'm telling you. That's number one. Building careers and helping them to be responsible, all that comes with it, yes. But if you're not honoring God first, everything else can fail. And often is short-lived anyway. I think a lot of children who quit on the Lord when they're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and so forth, had a lot of problems at home with families where there weren't consistencies. The father and mother might send the kids but not go with them. Or one of the two didn't go at all. Or everybody still got in a hurry to say they're in love and still married somebody they were unequally yoked to. See, all this stuff we did. But God told us how to do it all right. Are you telling your children, if you've got children now that are growing up, to find someone who loves and honors God first? What's the first thing we're saying to them? Somebody who gets a good job? Is that what we're saying first? Is it fair to say that we want better than that if we're men of the house, leading our families? Don't leave it to our wives to do it all and us just sit back. Be the man who checks up on his children now and then. Ground them yourself. Don't make her do it all the time. Ground them for missing curfew. Let them hear it for being rude to other people in public because it's not appropriate. Rudeness needs to go away. We've seen too much of that in the world. Reinforce rules you make so your wife does not get stuck looking like the bad guy all the time. And that happens quite often. Reinforce these rules. Teach them responsibility and don't give them everything they desire at all costs because you feel like you have to or you owe it to them or I want them to be so happy and I believe possessions make them happy. You're not listening to God if you're going to do that. Expensive toys and expensive vacations all the time. No rules. No teaching at home about the right things, the good things, the more important things. One of my friends came down from the church, an alliance that we were serving when we first started in the ministry. She and her husband came by and they stopped to visit us for a little bit. And we were talking about life in general, our kids and everything. And she brought up the fact that she wished she had not given her daughter as much as she had in life. Now, her daughter's doing okay. She's got a good career. She's got a good husband, I imagine. I don't know a whole lot of their story because I haven't seen her in years, except at her wedding. And even she said, I wish we'd given her less of things and more instruction. Because she's very much into the Word of God at this time in her life, and so is her husband. And they realized raising their children, they weren't always. The opposite of love is having no rules, no punishments. Think about this. Listen now. Having no rules, no punishments, no restrictions, trying to give them whatever they want and not insisting on good public behavior. And we have too much of that already in the world. And the world's going to inherit your children if you do this. And if you did this, they're going to become our problem to deal with. They're going to be the one that serves us at the drive-through window with no manners and no smile. Can't count change properly without the machine. And who knows what else. They're going to be the ones who have no social skills whatsoever because they're allowed to go entertain themselves and play all they want if they'll stay out of your hair. They won't be creative much anymore. A charge for the man of the house: be in control of what God wants you to be. Teach what he wants you to teach. Lead your family so that there's no vacuum or no void there that has to be filled by others. Let's go on. A charge to the family members, because that's who Abraham was, by the way, and we read that about him. Charge to the family members. Colossians 3:18. Let me get there. Colossians 3:18 through 21 says this to us. Wives, submit yourselves to your husbands as is fitting in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. Now, I find this interesting. It talks about wives submitting to their husbands, then it goes to husbands, love your wives. Children, obey your parents. Then it goes back to the fathers again, a second time. It says, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. So this is a charge to family members at large, all of us. Wives, submit to your husbands. You know what? Say that in America today. Go out in the street and say that in the way that the world doesn't want to hear it. In a world where equality means everything, including authority. Equality in who's in charge. What we don't understand is submitting to someone doesn't mean you don't have self-respect or you don't have respect for that person and you aren't loved and you aren't served back. It means God says there's purpose and order everywhere in the universe. He's even put it in the family. He doesn't want everybody to try to be in charge at the same time because it doesn't work. The burden falls on the man to make sure his house is in line. But yes, he'd better take his wife's input and listen to her. And sometimes being in charge means doing what she says. Doesn't it? Doesn't it, Wayne? I know you do everything Tammy tells you. She's so mean. Not. Wives, submit to your husbands. Webster defines this as to refer to others for decision, to yield to the action, control, power, etc. of another, to offer opinion, suggestions, and propose ideas is also part of submission. Did you know that? That makes her now the team player. And therefore, she does walk beside you, not behind you. Equal in interest. But God's telling you, you're going to be responsible for what happens in your home. That's what he really means by it. Husbands, you have to earn this submission by serving and caring for her needs, which means you submit to her after all. Because you submit to what she needs, to her care, her goodness, her welfare, providing for her. When you said you'd marry her, you said you'd take care of her. So you are submitting. Children, obey your parents, he says, of Ephesians 6:1-3. We'll read that in just a moment. But if you look at this, it says, children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. And this is here in Colossians chapter 3, verse 20. Look at Ephesians 6:1-3. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you, and you may enjoy long life on the earth. It's like, don't think you're going to be around. All those phrases we say, you're not going to be around. I brought you in this world and I can take you out. Many parents have said that one in a moment of upset, rage, and so forth, and anger. Not really meaning it, of course. Children, obey your parents. How long does that last? Till they're 18? I say it also means to respect them even in later life, and we don't always do that well. We think we've arrived. We're the adult now. We got it all figured out. I imagine my mother and your mother, my father, your father, would enjoy those moments where we ask their opinion, their thoughts on things. How would you do it, Mom, Dad? What did you do when I was younger? I had that blessing just a few days ago from my daughter, Brooke. She asked me about what I did when she was little, in certain circumstances she was dealing with her daughter in. And you know what? I just smiled for a while. She goes, "What's the matter?" I said, "I just don't remember you ever asking me my thoughts or my opinion before. I always wanted to give it when you didn't want it. Now you're asking me?" I was blessed that she thought I still had something to say. Is that not honoring, respecting, obeying in many ways? Well, the family members that we talk about, the husbands, the wives, the children to the parents, but the fathers, it says here in the last part, I find this interesting. Do not aggravate your children. Don't talk down to them is what he's saying. Don't talk down to them, belittle them. Don't yell at them in public and embarrass and shame them in front of other people because you're upset for the moment. We wonder why they resist and don't want to do what we say. Well, that's because we're humiliating them while other people watch if we do this. And I've seen an awful lot of parents do it. Haven't you? They're not kidding anybody. The parent in Walmart who yells at two children and grabs them by the arm and jerks them down the aisle to look like they're disciplined, they're telling me they don't do it at home or anywhere else, and so they're doing it here like this to put on a show for the rest of us that they're good parents who are taking control. That's what it really means, doesn't it? Fathers, do not aggravate your children. Don't talk down to them. Don't belittle them publicly. Don't shame and embarrass them. Don't call them harsh names. There are actually TV shows on there where this one guy called his son some really heavy names. And on the commercials of that one show, I can say I never watched the show. I saw the commercials and that was enough for me. But he calls his son an idiot constantly on the show. Tells him he'll never make anything of himself. How many times would you have to tell your child, you'll never amount to anything, you'll never be anything, to where they finally start to believe you? And here's what will happen. They will decide to surrender. What's the use? Nobody believes me anyway. No one thinks I'm going to do anything, so I have nothing to prove. Instead of looking at the other way and saying, I've got everything to show that I'm not going to be everything they've labeled me to be. Sometimes we think good parenting is shouting kids down and telling them a few things and calling them a few names, thinking we're humbling them for the moment, I guess. Cussing at them. And then when they use those words, we want to wash their mouth out, but we used them. If that happens. And maybe you're all going to say, you know what? Thank God none of us do that. And maybe you don't. But maybe your children do, or someone else you know does. Maybe we can start praying for them in this way, that they will learn to use the right words if it's not you. A charge to family members: respect each other, honor each other as you would the Lord, take care of each other, bless each other, and make the time count, because it won't take long. I'm thinking that next year I've got 3 grandchildren that are going to be in junior high already, and yesterday they were in diapers. That's how fast it went. And next year I've got 3 in junior high, and I tell you what, it bothers me. Because that means I got older too, and life's moving on. And you think to yourself, wow, where did the time go? You talk about redeeming the time. You want to take less naps, go to bed at a more decent time, eat more properly, do whatever it takes to be more healthy. You start thinking those things as you get older, especially if you didn't think about them when you were younger. And you think, what if I could save the time in a better way? And you still can. It doesn't mean we have to quit because we haven't been doing it all along. But maybe today's the day we start making that decision. To be a real family means I'm going to value my time with you, whoever you are, my son, my daughter, my wife, my siblings, my mother, my father. Value that time and make it really count. Because I tell you what I've seen, and maybe you have too, when you go to enough funerals, you see the tears then, and you hear people say things they wish they'd said before. And I'm thinking, why not do it then? Why not get in the habit of doing it while people are alive? Say something that'll build them up today, even though there's lots of disappointments maybe of some kind that you've had from that person or persons. Why not tell them the things that they do that you value? Let them hear it. Watch their eyes. Watch what a blessing it makes in their heart when you finally tell them, I do love you, Mom, Dad. Honey, if it's your child, I am upset sometimes you do the things you do, but I still love you. and I'll still be there tomorrow. I've told my daughters more than once, I said, there's things you do that I won't like. And there's been things you've done I don't like. I wouldn't have done the way you did them. And that doesn't mean I'm right necessarily all the time. But here's the one thing I can promise you. I'll always be your dad. And I'll always love you. Even when you do things that aren't so respectful or good, if those days come. And I pray they don't. I'll still love you anyway. And I got to thinking, isn't that what God did with us? No matter what all you've done, I love you, he said on the cross. No matter what sins you've committed, I died for them. No matter what words you shouted and spoken that were harmful and damaging to other people's egos or their life, I've forgiven them. Because I can't help it. I'm God, he says, and you're my children. I don't want to let go of you. But it hurts me when you're willing to let go of me. That's what he's been saying to the world all along. You always hurt me, but I love you. You always want to let go, and some come back and some don't. Some grab hold and stay a hold, and that's good. But my family can hurt, but they're my family. That's why God can still love us when we do things he doesn't like. Let's go to the last thing here, a charge to those whose family is missing a part or two, because we certainly have broken homes, and we don't say it anymore because society doesn't allow us to, so we'll tone it down. Family, it's true. It is true. A family is whatever it's been made to be today. If it's one person raising children by themselves, if it's grandparents and no parents are around, if there have been deaths and divorces and things like that have happened in life, I have a charge to those whose family is missing a part or two based on Psalm 27:10. It says this, though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. Now that sounds very harsh of David to write that psalm, doesn't it? But he's saying if that situation comes and they don't love me and they don't watch out for me, I have a father who will. And maybe in your father's provision, plan B had to take place for some people. And it means just mom, just dad, neither. Society, a foster home, or grandparents have had to take that role. Biblically, we see a family as dad, mom, and children. I will tell you what we miss often, though, is that some families consist of a mom or a dad or another relative. Some families get a new start with a new spouse after a divorce or death, and they get to make a new beginning. My daughters, Brooke and Bethany, lost their biological mother when they were both preschoolers. But you've seen them around Linda, and they adore and love each other, and she is mom too. And she has been since they were very little. And I can't even pick on her around them if I want to, because they know she's gone. She's gone the extra mile for them more than once in life. And she's wept for them and prayed for them and hoped for them and been hurt by them and been brought joy by them as well, of course, and a lot of celebration. Linda took on the role of a mother when they had not gotten to kindergarten. If you ask them today, Linda is their mother, but they never forgot the mother of their birth, Lori. And she was wonderful too. Whatever your situation today, my friends, that is your family. That's your family. And that's what you need to say. That's my family. And I'm going to watch out for them. They're going to be okay on my watch. Husbands and wives working together, those children are under your watch and care. They're a gift from God right now while you may. Watch over them. Love them. Take care of them. Say no to them sometimes and don't give them a yes answer to everything they want in life. You'll regret it later. Let them work for some things. Let them learn to appreciate things that don't come so easy in life. And don't be ashamed. And don't be ashamed of what you do for a living if you don't make a lot of money like the next person. If you don't have a bigger house like other people. God has a lot more people who have a lot less than there are who have a lot in this world. There's a reason for that. He knows how many things can get in the way of what really counts. And I think your family is, other than Jesus dying for your sins, your family is the greatest gift he gave you. The way it is right now. Whatever situation you're in today, that is your family. Whoever is seeing to your needs and caring for you, loving you before themselves, and sacrificing for your well-being, those are your parents. Those that care for you and watch out for you. That's what God gave you and gives you. And He blesses it. I want to close today as we think about family ties a little bit. I know I get passionate sometimes, and probably the sermons come across as, gee, that feels like a downer. That's not my intention. I just want us to think all the time about everything and appreciate it. I get intense about that, I realize. But I am very happy, and there's a lot of joy in my soul for my family, I will tell you. Even for little Scrappy, the dog that came from I don't know where. Trying to make room for him in my heart too, and it's been very difficult. My neighbors would say the same. But when I think about family, and it's what I've got, I'm pretty well blessed, aren't you? I've heard Levi talk about the blessing of his parents. I've heard others too, and many of you have done the same. It's a big job, Mike, isn't it? Have a family looking at us, depending on us to do the right thing, to show them the right way. I'll tell you one story as we close today of a family, true story, one of many you've heard like it, I'm sure. His name's Solomon Rosenberg. Solomon Rosenberg. His wife, his two sons, his mother and father, and he were arrested and placed in a Nazi prisoner camp during the Holocaust in World War II. The rules were simple at any of these places if you were in one of them. They were this: as long as you can do your work, you're permitted to live. When you become too weak to do your work, you're exterminated. Simple and plain, and they're told that. Their life is hell on earth. Because as long as the Nazis are in control, they don't get to go back home to what they knew as home. Their families don't get to be together in peace as long as this situation exists. Well, Rosenberg watched his mother and then his father get marched off to their deaths because that one day came when they couldn't hold up their own end anymore. And so they were exterminated. And when the smokestacks were going and the ashes were coming up in the air, they were thinking of the fact that mom and dad are probably in that somewhere. Kind of gross, isn't it? Next, he knew would be his youngest son, because David had always been a frail child. Every evening, Rosenberg came back into the barracks after hours of labor and searched for his family, because they were split up during the day to do different chores. He would go frantically looking for his family to see if everybody was in place. Because let's face it, if they took one of your family members and exterminated them, they didn't tell you. You had to find out on your own. Every evening, he went back in the barracks after hours of labor and searched for his family. When he found them, he would huddle and embrace them, thank God for another day of life, and they'd weep together and rejoice. One day, Rosenberg searched harder for his family than he ever had usually. Then he found his eldest son Joshua, huddled in a corner and bitterly weeping. He'd been the first one to come back that night. The father went to him and said, "Josh, tell me it's not true. Please tell me it's not true." "It's true, Papa. They came and took David away today because he was too weak to do his work." And he wept. Then he said, "But where's your mama? Where's Mama?" he asked. "Oh, Papa, when they came for David, he was so scared and so young, and he cried and cried. And Mama saw him and said, 'There is nothing to be afraid of, David.' And so she took him by the hand, Papa, and went with him so he wouldn't be alone." Now, I know this may seem a little melodramatic, but I say this: value the family you have and don't get down and out about what it's not. We've done too much of that. We've been angry with our family. We've picked on them. We've thought little of them. We've backbitten them, gossiped about them at other family reunions they didn't come to at times. Treasure the life you have and appreciate your family every single day. The Rosenbergers would tell you they're a gift, and you don't know how long you have them. And now that sounds dismal, so let me say this in a positive, upbeat way. The day's coming when we're going to go home. We're going to be in heaven, and we're going to be a family again. And we've lost people that we love dearly and we miss. We've seen people, we've hurt people, Mend with them now while you're on earth, and get ready for a great reunion one day when we all smile and have joy beyond the gates. That's something you and I can still look forward to, that no one can take away from us. Nobody. Because they're not greater than God. And can you imagine living in that type of bliss for all eternity as the family of God? That's why we want to practice now being just that, family. How are your family ties today? I'm asking your friends. Let's pray.